Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Now today it's a how-to. I'm talking about car finance. I know this has been discussed before, but honestly I don't think it's been covered in the right way. I think that finance is an important topic. It's how most people buy their cars, but honestly not a lot of people buy their cars sensibly through finance. Now the number one reason for people using car finance is because they want to essentially get a car that they don't have the full amount of money to pay for. So what they want to do is put a small amount of money down, and then they want to pay a certain amount every month. Now there's different types of car finance. It can apply to different people in different ways based on how much you earn. The biggest problem that I genuinely believe in it is that now you walk into a showroom and the first question they ask you when you're looking at a car is, how much can you spend a month? That's not actually the right way to be looking at spending money on a car, because finance deals can be tailored to meet your monthly requirements, when what you don't realize is you're actually paying a lot more for the car than the dealer tells you. Now, there's been a lot of changes in the law in that how they can kind of sell you car finance. So totally understand that everything that the dealers are saying to you now, you get the full information. But what people just still don't understand is that when they take out that car finance, a lot of what it is that they've loaned or what they've borrowed gets offset towards the end, and you pay a lot of interest on that money that's kind of sitting at the end. Now, there's something called a standard hire purchase agreement. Now, a hire purchase agreement is you put a deposit down, say £5,000, and the car is £50,000, and all you do is pay the equivalent of the £45,000 borrowing divided by the period of time that you've got that car. Now, there's an interest rate that's charged for a hire purchase, and that hire purchase rate in like the UK could be something like 3% flat rate. But you see, that's another confusing thing, because in the UK they talk about something called APR. APR and flat rate, two separate things. Basically, APR is usually about double what the flat rate is. And what you should be really looking at is the flat rate, because that flat rate is the same amount of money that you would get if you put your money in the bank. Now, people finance cars for different reasons, as I mentioned, and obviously the number one reason is so that they can afford a car that essentially they can't pay for in full. But what's important to remember is that financing a car can also be a sensible way of using your money. So first things being is that if you're buying a £300,000 Aventador, if you do finance it for a rate of say 3%, for example, on a flat rate, which is a very good rate, it in fact means that if you use that money elsewhere, so let's say you put £50,000 into the car and you borrow £250,000, if you put that £250,000 elsewhere and you make a higher return on it, so your money is making say 4% in a year, there's no point in you having your money sitting in a car where you can make an extra percent. Now that's the way I look at it, because as you guys know, I'm into investments, whether that be shares, properties, or whatever that might be. So you guys have to be looking at car finance in that way. Now, speaking about supercar finance is a different area compared to just normal car finance, because a lot of the time, especially if you're buying cars that are very desirable, cars that have a waiting list, a lot of times you can take out car finance, you'll actually end up paying more than what the car price or sticker value is. But when it comes to it, it doesn't really matter, because sometimes those cars sell for a little bit more, or you can get your money back. When you're buying a lot of these other cars where, natural depreciation does take place, you're actually not just going to be losing what a £45,000 car goes down to 30, you'll be losing your borrowing amount that could be actually borrowing up to like 50,000, and then you're actually losing if it's then worth 30,000 afterwards, so you could be losing a lot more. So sometimes the finance shopping isn't the best route to go down. Now, instead of me carrying on in this car, let's switch over to the S-Class and talk about maybe some actual figures so you guys understand how affordable some of these cars can be. Right, so we're in the S-Class now and I'm driving. I do really enjoy driving this car, as I said in the last video. Make sure you check out this video, by the way. I did a full review of the S-Class and on my collection. It should be up there, just click there, or there, I think there. So let's talk figures. Now, a lot of people don't talk about car finance figures. I think it's not really something to hide because they're quite readily available, but sometimes people just don't know where in the right place to look. Let's talk about supercar first. So Aventador. Now, without my exact figures for my car, because obviously I put in a certain amount and financed a separate amount, let's just roughly go with the figure of an Aventador at £300,000. And if you are putting, say, £50,000 into the car. Now, if you're doing that, of course, you have to have £50,000 that you put in on day one, and then you sign an agreement that means that you pay a certain amount every month. Now, if you get a very good rate, the amount that you'll be paying every month is around about £3,000 to £3,500 a month. And that allows you to have that car, and as long as you make those payments every month, you keep that car. Now, what happens? What's the term of the agreement? It can be a number of different years. If you make it like a 3-year agreement or a 4-year agreement, if it's a longer period of time, you pay less every month. So a lot of the times when people buy cars, and this is something not just about supercars, is that they get themselves onto a long-term plan. Now, if that's say 4 years, for example, That's going to bring your monthly payments down, and that's how some dealers do it. But you want a longer term, bring your monthly payments down, but actually you're borrowing money for a longer period of time, so you do end up paying more money, even though in the initial point you think, oh, it's making it cheaper. So that's kind of one trick to look out for. Now the other thing is just because you take out car finance and it lasts 3 years or 4 years, does that or does that not mean that you have to keep the car? No, it doesn't. Some car finance companies will say that, listen, if you're going to terminate your contract early, then we're going to make you pay a certain amount of a fee, like, just to get out of it. But most of them shouldn't have too much of a problem. But the main things to be looking out for is, of course, the rate that it is you're paying at. Now, the rate that you're paying determines basically whether you're getting a good deal or not. And as I've mentioned, the APR and the flat rate are two very different things. Now, everything that's advertised to you will be the APR. And I explained, I just don't understand why they do this. But the flat rate, which you should be looking at here in the UK, is roughly about 3%, being a fantastic rate. If you can get less than that, that is really good as well. Now, only use your money to finance a car by borrowing if that money is not being used elsewhere for anything. If you could use it potentially for further investments, then that's great. Now, don't take money to finance a car, borrow some of that money and say, oh, I've now got an extra 30 grand essentially because I didn't have to buy this car. Let me go and put it in this investment over here because it's going to make me X amount of money. Some investments don't work out. Yes, if you are a seasonal investor, you'll understand about certain things, so you'll get it, but a lot of the times you can put your money somewhere and it'll actually go down in value. And on top of that, not only will it go down in value, that means tomorrow when you come to the end of your car payment plan, you don't have a lot of the money, and if you sell your car, the value of your car is not actually what you borrowed in the first place. So a lot of people find themselves kind of stuck with, they need to trade in their car for maybe another car, and they say, well, you know what, to get you out of your agreement, you actually owe us a little bit of money. You should never be in that position. Your car should always have equity in it, and the equity is the kind of like the residual value, the money that's stuck in after all of your loans and everything is taken out. Now, those are really important things to mention. Let's go for a little bit more of a drive, and I'll talk to you more about how and what you should be looking out for specifically when you guys go and get car finance. So, for car finance, I have 5 top tips of things that you need to be looking out for. Now, before I tell you these things, hopefully you found this video useful, so please remember to like, subscribe, and do all the other bits of the video. But I want you to comment. Any questions you have about car finance, drop a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to as many people as possible. If there are too many questions, and I think there will be a lot of questions, like the ones, if you don't ask a double question, trying to read through the comments, like the ones that you think is really important, and the really important ones I'm going to address in another kind of Q&A video on this. So I think this is a popular topic because people have talked to me about it. Now, for my 5 top tips, okay? First things first, when you are taking out a finance agreement, make sure you guys know what it is. Is it a PCP? Is it a payment contract plan? Is it an HP? Is it a hire to purchase agreement? Make sure you understand what is the difference between the two. Now, I'll go that into more detail maybe in another video, but make sure you understand the difference between the two, because of course you're signing a contract to make payments regularly every month, and it's really important to know that this does affect your credit rating. Linking into another video where I talked about property and building up your credit rating, taking a loan out on a car, making those payments regularly is another way to build up your credit rating, so to speak. Second things, don't get lured in by the monthly payments. The monthly payments are not the thing that you should be really focusing on that much. I understand people have budgets, so that's understandable, but don't be lured in by somebody trying to lower payments from you and increasing the length of a plan. And on top of that as well, remember that the rate that you're getting is super, super important. So the APRs and the flat rates is what we talked about. Make sure you understand your rate, because sometimes they'll just give you this thing that looks like it's promotional, and that's not actually the case. Now, the third thing I say that's most important is when you guys are going in to buy a car, it's great. It's a really exciting experience. But you need to think about the residual value of your car. Now, that's what your value of your car is going to be when you decide to sell it. 6 months, 1 year, whatever your personal preference is. Now, I keep my cars roughly between 6 months to a year, nothing longer than that, personally, because I get bored. But honestly, if you're doing that, work out how much your car is going to be worth after 6 months or a year, because when you take out a finance agreement, at the end there's this kind of like final payment in a lot of these things in a PCP agreement. And if there is a final payment and you work out that your car actually in 6 months or a year's time is going to be worth less than what your payment is that you have to make, you'll actually end up owing money. So make sure you are looking at the residual values, and that's something you should just do generally, even if you are buying finance or you're not buying finance. And I guess the final thing is, guys, is just be smart generally about the whole buying process. Please don't get lured in by dealers who are going to try and just tempt you out with certain deals. Don't get confused that sometimes they'll give you deposit contributions towards going to your finance agreement when actually you could be negotiating money off the car as well. Don't think you just have to walk in, see what it is that they give you, and that's the best deal they can do. Go back to them when they present you with a finance agreement and say, I think you can do a little bit of a better deal. And I bet you 9 times out of 10 they can. So those are my kind of 5 top tips. I hope you enjoyed that video. It's just a short one. I will go into more detail about this if you guys want it, so let me know in the comments below. Like I said, please like, subscribe, because there is more content coming and some really cool stuff with a really cool road trip. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.